So the question is, what do you do if your baby goat is born with horns? So the question you'll have to ask yourself is, do you want them to keep their horns, or would you like them to be removed, which is a process called disbudding? When a baby goat is born, they're either going to be born with two small buds on the top of their head where the horns will grow out of, or they're going to be born with no buds at all. If they have no buds, like this baby right here, he doesn't have any little buds on the top of his head, so he is considered polled. So since he's polled, I don't have to make a decision about disbudding him, which is really nice. So Freddie James here, Freddie James is polled. His twin brother, however, Calvin James, has small buds on his head, so he was disbudded this morning. I chose to have Calvin James disbudded because of safety reasons. Not only safety for Calvin, so that he doesn't get his horn stuck in the fencing, get himself trapped anywhere, or run the risk of breaking a horn, which can be very painful for goats, but also for the safety of my children. Yes, these are Nigerian dwarf goats, so they are small, but with horns they certainly could potentially hurt someone. It may not be on purpose, it could be accidental, but those horns can be sharp. So for their safety and for our safety, we had Calvin James disbudded this morning. Should we get your brother? Let's go get your brother. Here he is. So Calvin James no longer has his buds. For his disbudding, I called my goat veterinarian and scheduled to have her come out to do the disbudding on this little guy. He is 11 days old. For the procedure, the veterinarian used a disbudding iron. So she was able to use that to help to remove these buds and cauterize the area. So what to expect when your vet is going to come to disbud your goat? In my experience, the first thing the vet did was plug in the disbudding iron so that it could get hot. It takes a little bit of time for that to heat up. So I did have a 3-prong electrical outlet at the ready with a table next to it for her to place the baby on. She did an exam on little Calvin here. Calvin James had his exam to make sure that he was in good health for the procedure. After his exam, she shaved the top of his head all around the buds so that the hair would be out of the way for the disbudding procedure and not getting singed. She tested the disbudding iron on a piece of wood where it made a black ring just to be sure that it's hot enough to burn the wood, so that way you know it's hot enough to burn the bud. Once that was ready, she then gave a Torbitrol injection into his jugular vein. So he had that as a sedative. And the sedative started to work very quickly. You could see him getting sleepy. His head started to droop. She used lidocaine and injected it in various points on the top of his head around his buds to offer some pain control. She also gave him a Banamine injection for pain control. The procedure went fairly quick. She placed the disbudding iron on each bud, one at a time for short intervals. She was explaining that a baby goat does not have a thick skull. There's not a thick layer between the skull and the brain of a baby goat. So you need to be really careful with how long you leave that disbudding iron on the top of their head. So she did short intervals and took breaks in between. After using the disbudding iron to form rings around each bud, she used the disbudding iron to cauterize the center of the bud. She did that for each bud. After the procedure, she used Aloe Shield, which is an aerosol bandage, and so she said that silver spray will seal the wound, and that will help to protect it, to keep it from getting infected. And then she sprayed it with Prozap fly control across the top here to keep any flies from trying to get into the wound there. After that, she reversed the Torbitrol injection by giving antecedent. Honestly, after the antecedent, he started to wake up fairly quickly. He was a little bit groggy, but he was up and walking within a few minutes, which was really nice to see. For aftercare, she said that this area should be just fine. The little buds should fall off on their own, and just to use wound care spray as needed, as well as fly control. Overall, he did really well, and the procedure didn't take long. We let the sedative fully wear off, and then he got back to nursing with Mom and playing with his twin brother, Freddie James, right? And I'm happy that he's not afraid of me after his procedure. Calvin James had his disbudding done at 11 days of age. The vet had explained he had it done the first week around 5 days of age. It may have gone a little easier in that he would have been less wiggly and we may not have had to do a sedative. We may have just done some lidocaine. So for the next baby that needs a disbudding, I'll be sure to have the vet appointment scheduled for when the buck is 5 days old. She said with the does you can do it a little bit later, but for the bucks, their buds tend to develop faster, so better to do it around that 5-day mark. So you might want to know what the cost of disbudding is. Well, of course, it's going to vary based on your location, whether you have a veterinarian do the disbudding, and also whether you are using lidocaine for pain, whether you're not using anything at all, or if you're also sedating. Lots of factors go into it. So in Calvin James's case, he had the works. He had the sedation, he had the lidocaine, the pain medication, injectable. She also recommended that he have his tetanus shot after his disbudding procedure, so she opted to do his first CDT vaccine. He'll also have his booster vaccines when he's older as well. So the total cost was $373. So she did come to our farm. So there's the farm call, the exam fee, the sedation was $100, the vaccination was $25, the disbudding procedure and the lidocaine injections, that was $100, and the Banamine injection was $15. So altogether, that came to the $373 for the disbudding procedure. So I hope that helps to give you an idea of what the disbudding procedure is like, how much it costs, what to expect. And I'm happy to say that little Calvin is doing really well. Running around with his brother and nursing on his mom and hanging out with Auntie Amelia. So now you know all about disbudding a goat. It's not the easiest thing to watch, but I'm happy that he was sedated and had pain medication on board to hopefully mitigate some of the pain of the procedure. And as long as the disbudding took, then we won't have to worry about his safety in regards to horns or the safety of our kids. Raising goats is a lot of fun. If you haven't started your farm yet, what are you waiting for? Get your farm on.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Do you want a farm? A wicked awesome farm? Watch this channel to learn what to do. We love to farm and we'll show you. Yeah, welcome to our show.